Hello, friend, and welcome to Borgcast Original Series 3.18 with Anne-Marie.
And Peter.
And Lila, who may start snoring soon because she's in my arms, bless her.
And tonight we are covering The Lights of Zetar, which is a very pulpy title, isn't it? It's not the sort of classy titles we're used to. The Japanese version, Attack of Vanishing Planet Zetar. There's no planet.
No.
It doesn't vanish. It's just some lights. That's why it's called Lights of Zetar. Why couldn't you have translated? Never mind. It's written by Jeremy Tarcher and Shari Lewis, who are husband and wife, fans of Star Trek. So we've got to the point now where the fans are starting to write the episodes.
Oh.
Lewis felt someone should get the girl for a change, and she apparently auditioned for the part of Myra, which seems a bit cheeky. Perhaps she fancied Doohan, I don't know. She's famous for starring in and providing the voice of Lamb Chop in Lamb Chop's Play Along.
What the fuck?
Which is a frankly disturbing kids show with a very manky looking lamb puppet.
Really?
And all the animals have the same sort of mouths that look pretty freaky.
British, American?
American, needless to say.
Oh, okay.
United Statesian, to be specific.
Bounce your bottom in your chair. Bounce it here, bounce it there. And with tender, loving care, bounce it everywhere. Bounce it fast, bounce it slow. Bounce it high, bounce it low. Sing while you bounce along. One more chorus of a song. Lamb chops, play along. With kids come to play along. And fun things are all we ever do. Yeah, it's Lamb chops.
It's directed, not pork chops, lamb chops, whatever it was, but this episode by Herb Kenwith. One off. He was a prolific director for other series, though. His work includes 22 episodes of Different Strokes, 422 episodes of Peyton Place, which is a soap opera sequel, and in the 1950s, 1,025 episodes
Bloody hell.
of something called Valiant Lady. A live soap opera about a woman to whom horrible things happen.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, lovely. Valiant Lady. Didn't the Bee Gees ever hit with that? Anyway.
Captain!
You've never seen anything like that before?
Negative. She's dead.
We must get back to the ship. You'll be killed if we stay.
Prepare to lock phasers into the heart of the community.
Captain! When you fired the phasers, they stunned her and she crumpled. Another shot and you'll kill her!
All personnel, attention. Alien forces penetrated the ship. Take defensive action. Attention all personnel. Alien being has penetrated the ship.
We lost that to them. You will all die.
Right. So, yes, apologies for the scatty notes. But we have this new crew member, Mira Remain.
Okay, so she's played by Jan Shutan, who was in Zoltan, Hound of Dracula.
Wow.
Which is not a film we've seen, but it has a very bad reputation. In 10 episodes of Sons and Daughters.
Sons and daughters, love and laughter, tears and sadness and happiness. We will find out our sons and daughters are what we too were once about.
Terrible tune. The original Fugitive and a few other TV shows as well from in the 60s and 70s. She comes from a Martian colony, which might be Trek's first mention of that idea.
Yeah. Isn't Sons and Daughters the one where it's the brother and the sister and then it's incestuous because they don't know they're brother and sister?
I thought that was Star Wars, wasn't it? No, I've never seen Sons and Daughters, so I can't help you there.
Oh, we used to watch it.
Right.
And I think it was really properly dodgy.
Right. Lovely. It was the 1980s. It does beg the question how she got to lieutenant without getting into space beforehand.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you normally spend a bit of time as an ensign first, and that would be the first time you'd be in space? You don't go in straight at the rank of lieutenant, do you?
Well, there used to be a thing in the British Army, whether they did it in the other forces, I don't know, that if you were considered officer class, you started off as lieutenant junior grade.
What you're thinking of is a differentiation between non-commissioned officers and ordinary troops and officers, and obviously you only got to be an officer if you were from the right family, sort of.
Yeah, so you don't start as private just because you're new.
Oh, no. See, the officers would never start as private. They'd start at the lowest officer rank. But the lowest officer rank for Trek is ensign, so they ought to start there. Anyway. I mean, surely she'd have travelled to Earth at some point in her life. I mean, if only to train at Starfleet Academy, which is rather based on Earth. So it seems weird that this is her first space trip.
Unless it's her first trip out of the solar system.
Well, that's not what Scotty says. And the point is that he's trying to claim that her visions are a result of space sickness because she's not been in space before. But again, that makes no sense for a lieutenant, does it?
Oh, I don't know. There's other stuff about this doesn't make any sense, but yes. Anyway, Scotty's all starry-eyed over her.
Yeah, it's a bit ick, innit? I mean, the fact that Duhan was 12 years older than Shutan, I suppose that's not a massive age gap, but it feels ick.
I think it feels ick because of the rank difference.
Maybe.
He's in a position of seniority.
Definitely.
Over her.
She gets to call him sir.
She has to call him... Do you know what I mean? That worries me. But it's just actually, to be honest, his whole attitude, I want to slap him.
Yeah, it's more like...
It's really patronising.
Father and daughter than it is.
Yeah, it's really patronising. And I really don't like it at all. But then also you've got, he used to only have eyes for the Enterprise. And then, I can't remember the line that Chekhov has, but Sulu says something like, I'm not sure he's even aware she has a brain.
Yes.
Which is really quite horrific. And actually, he did actually say at one point that he appreciates how intelligent she is. So that's not true, but just the way they phrase it is just really not nice at all.
You do get a cool overhead view of Kirk, although apparently this is unused footage from the Galileo 7. Oh. So you can't credit that to this director.
Fair enough. Maybe he just went, that looks cool, I'll nick it.
Exactly, yeah. We're a bit short. I'll use that shot. Brilliant. En route to Memory Alpha.
Yeah,
sounds a bit odd now.
Yeah, which I presume is where it comes from. So it's
just a click away.
It's a big, but it's such a silly idea. It's really much putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
It's like the repository of all knowledge of all of the Federation anywhere. It's like
let's put it in one place and let's not give it any shields because nobody's going to attack a repository of knowledge.
To be honest, it sounds to me like the sort of thing that would happen in Blake 7 where Blake goes to blow it up.
Yes.
And then Avon tells him he's an idiot for thinking it would be that easy because of course it's not that easy because of course it would have shields and be guarded and everything, you idiot.
Yes,
kind of
quite.
Thing.
But yes, it's up there with Star One, isn't it?
Yeah.
All the computers of the Federation are controlled from this one bunker on the one planet.
Yeah.
Like, nobody would be that idiotic.
No, that's very much where I went to. But anyway, she's got a mission that involves the work there, and she and Scotty have got particular tasks that they're supposed to perform as part of that mission.
There's equipment they need to install, I think.
Yeah, but I'm not quite sure. Again, could be because I was eating my Chinese at the time, but I wasn't quite sure what her role was.
Well, she was going to be left behind there to install it all, apparently.
Okay. There's this thing appears. I don't know whether it looks any better in the...
Nope.
No, okay, fine.
They do redo the blinky lights of Doom in the remastered version, but they're just CG blinky lights of Doom.
There's still blinky lights of Doom.
So, I mean, they could have taken the opportunity to do any, but then again, they needed to be lights, really, because lights of Zetar, I mean, their clue is in the title. So, and this used to be one of my main problems of Trek when I was growing up and why I never got into it in the way I got into Doctor Who and Star Wars is like so often it seemed like, and it doesn't happen that often actually, but this is just like your typical, oh no, we're up against some blinky lights. What are we going to do? It's like, that's not very exciting. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's just cheap. That's the problem.
So initially they think it's a storm. But then they find it's headed their way at warp speed, so clearly it isn't. And then the twinkly lights all go sort of in the Enterprise, and she gets all stars right in her eyes. And then
stars in your eyes, you say? Get back, Matthew. No.
Yesterday, Matthew, I was a factory completist. But tonight, Matthew, I'm gonna be with Jesus.
Oh, the Half Man, Half Biscuit song, yes.
Yeah. And then I thought that, I mean, it's later you find out how they all experienced it, but I thought the crew was all frozen.
No, it wasn't quite. They'd all lost different senses. So Kirk can't talk. And I think that happens to Sulu as well.
And then Uhura was going to be messaging Memory Alpha, but she can't move her.
Yeah, she can't move. I mean, they all sort of lose different senses, don't
Shocker
they?
and Chekhov can't redirect his grace, but it looked to me at the time like maybe they'd frozen. And that's your teaser. And then you come round and Lieutenant Romaine just collapses. And then sort of they think that she's sort of coming to. She makes these weird arse noises.
Yeah, this is one of the better bits of the episode because that's a really creepy noise to be coming out of somebody's mouth. So that's quite effective.
Have you ever seen anything like that before? Negative.
And then when she comes to, she's resisting calls for sick bay, but she's told she has to go. And the storm is now headed for Memory Alpha, which is unshielded. There isn't any response now when Uhura's trying to signal them, and that's when she says that she tried, but she couldn't move, she couldn't do it. And Sulu says he couldn't speak, and Chekhov says he couldn't move his gaze. And then when they're in sick bay, Mira's really sort of snotty. So I don't need this, I don't need that, and not being very cooperative. Scott, having been told very specifically to go and man his post, is in sick bay, not engineering.
Yes. I love the bit where Nurse Chapel takes the mick out of him a bit. She does quite a credible Scottish accent.
She does, yes, that is amusing. But they've got to go to Memory Alpha. When they get there, crew, well, you think they're dead, but then there's one woman who isn't, but she makes the same weird-ass sounds.
Yeah, now the set is just a reuse of the control room from Whom Gods Destroy. You can tell because that control panel's got a very recognisable spiral thing on it.
Right, if you say so.
Yeah, Season 3 cheapness strikes again, because otherwise it's a bottle show. It's nice to see a Tellarite and an Andorian again. They didn't need to make people up, with the makeup, and they did. So, but unfortunately, this is the last time those races will be seen in the original series. But yeah, that woman's face when it glows.
It's just multicoloured weird arseness.
That would have freaked me out as a kid. That would be
particularly
right
with the noise
heebie-jeebies.
as well coming out. That's really sort of... And then she dies, and McCoy says that a different centre of the brain caused the death in each person. And of course, we knew that different bits of the brain were affected before when it affected the Enterprise. So Lieutenant Romaine is called down to see if she can help answer any of these questions, and she then says that the storm is returning and it's going to kill them. They need to go away. And Kirk is sceptical, but then the Enterprise gets in touch to say, it's changed course, it's coming back. You need to meet us. He's like, right, beam us up now. But when they do, there's some kind of problem beaming Lieutenant Romaine up.
Now this is never explained, is it?
No.
It's just like, what? Why was she not beamed up with everybody else? They never answer that one. I mean, presume it's something to do with the fact that she's got the alien thing lights in her or something, but it's never explained. Well, they do get to see Mr. Kyle the first time and last time this season. You haven't seen him since season 2.
And meanwhile, they'll be able to get her back, and she's really upset. She's with Scotty, and she says, I saw those people dead in those exact positions. Got these strange thoughts and this terror, and Scotty dismisses it and says, oh, you're space sick. She's like, oh, then I don't have to report it. And he's like, no, you don't, not unless you want to spend all the time in sick bay, which, of course, is a very foolish decision.
Yes.
On the bridge, they're trying to avoid the lights, which are getting closer, matching them for speed or whatever, so it's clear that it's not a storm. This is an entity or something. So they're scanning it, and so then Kirk's like, what is it? And the response is not it, they.
Yeah, there's a bizarre musical sting after that.
Your analysis, Bob.
What is it?
Not what is it, Captain. What are they?
It's like, dun, dun, dun. It's not that shocking or anything. And the music in general in this episode seems rather over the top, but that's because it was all written for Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Really?
Yeah, so, it would be out of place and jarring at times.
Yeah, gosh. And then they sort of wonder, is it necessarily malicious? So they try explaining to it that contact with the ship could cause issues, and they're asked not to come close and told that if they do, it could be dangerous.
I like that. That's very Star Trek.
Yeah.
Talk to it first. Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. So, of course, then tries phases. But that doesn't work either. So they try a more direct shot, causing Myra to collapse and the lights to stop. Scotty reports the effect on Myra, pleading for them to stop firing, which Kirk does. Spock suggests finding somewhere to go that's deadly to the lights, but which won't affect Myra.
How?
I know. That seems like a very un-Spock-like wild guess, as an idea, a bit bizarre. In what will become the modus operandi for Next Generation captains, Kirk sets up a conference in the briefing room.
Yeah.
They compare Myra's medical record to the scan of the lights and keep track of them by having Sulu on Zoom. McCoy observes that her brainwave patterns have changed and now they match those of the lights, which Spock suggests means the lights' thoughts are becoming Myra's. Sulu reports the lights drawing closer. Scotty reports Myra's visions, and she confesses to a further one featuring Scotty dying, which never comes to pass, so what? Kirk suggests to Myra not resist the lights in future, in the hopes of then getting some control over them. As they head for the lab, we see a crazy extra miming moving a wheel on the wall that just isn't there.
It's just so odd.
It's quite a famous gif, that one, because it's just bizarre.
Did they put something there in the remastered version to make it look less
No,
silly?
they didn't. They could have done, but they didn't.
They just went, no, that's too amusing.
Yeah, we're leaving that. The lights enter the ship and then enter Myra, for now. She starts glowing like the technician on Memory Alpha, but survives somehow, holding on to her identity. The lights speak through her, saying Myra's possession is the result of a long search to find a suitable vessel, there having been destroyed on their homeworld of Zetar. Kirk challenges them on the death of the Memory Alpha personnel and for taking over Myra's life. The Zetarians inform the crew that they will all die, which is nice. Scotty pops her into the decompression chamber, but gets zapped slightly off screen, weirdly. You don't actually see the zap happening.
Well, that's because somebody off screen is pushing him.
Possibly. They turn the gravity off in the chamber and there's a nice shot of Myra floating. Zero G has no effect, so they put the Zetarians
Under pressure.
It's nice to see this chamber again, though, because it was last seen way back in Space Seed. Eventually the lights disappear and Myra gives Scotty a smile. Sensibly, they turn the pressure back down gradually, and Scotty reflects that they have
All the time in the world.
eliciting a cheesy grin from Shatner. We get a classic trio argument about whether Scotty's love helped Myra retain her identity, but actually they end up all agreeing that she's fit for duty, which Kirk remarks is a first. I mean, it's not a bad ending, although a bit of an odd one not to see Myra again.
Yeah.
Before she departs from Memory Alpha. That would have been a better ending. This is apparently Ronald D. Moore's least favourite episode of original series due to him finding it boring. I mean, I would argue there are far more boring stories in the original series, but certainly this isn't great. I mean, it's a classic premise. Glowy lights in space threaten the Enterprise. I mean, it's kind of your basic Route 1 Trek story. But it's hardly novel enough or exciting enough, considering we've got to season 3 now. About the only novel thing about it is the fact that it's Scotty and not Kirk in love. I'm tempted just about to chalk this up as adequate Trek, because there wasn't again anything absolutely horrific in it. It was just a little bit dull in places, wasn't it, Lila? Yes.
The Scotty stuff was cheesy the way it was written.
Oh, it was, yes.
It was really cringy. I prefer it to last week's.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not saying masses, is it really?
No, not really. That is a relatively low bar.
But I think the cheesiness of the way Scotty is with her aside, I think the overall premise was better executed this time. And I think partly that was the weird-ass voice that helped you believe that she was possessed and that they'd obviously tried to possess this other person and it hadn't worked. And I think she carries it off.
Yeah, she's good.
She's good. So I really don't like the cringy Scotty stuff. It could have been written and played differently. So the snidey remarks from Chekhov and Sulu probably would have still been there at the time. But the way he's playing it could have been done differently.
Yeah, no, it's not a great performance from Jimmy
No,
Doohan.
I don't think it is.
It makes him out to be a sap, basically, which you don't think he is.
No,
really.
and he comes across as sleazy more than caring.
Yeah.
But the basic principle that he's the one who's found love rather than someone else.
That's yes.
That's good.
Nice
And the idea
and
that
McCoy's had a loved one recently as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So, they're sort of at least trying to expand it out from the usual, it's always Kirk in love and all centres around him.
and the sort of principle of non-corporeal beings trying to. I don't think it's the first time we've seen a non-corporeal being wanting a corporeal body.
Not by a long way. No, there's loads of them.
But this was at least. So I can't reach my beer now because of the dog. I'm incapacitated. Oh, yeah. But this was a little bit different. So I'm not sure it's adequate because of how schmaltzy and terrible and creepy the Scotty stuff is at the very beginning.
Uh-huh.
I think probably actually just better than last week is probably the most I'm going to manage, to be honest.
Okay. Let's find out what other people thought. Jeff Hyman has this to say. I want to like this one, as it's weird and atmospheric, but there isn't much substance to it, which, yes, is probably an understatement. And we've heard from Boss. Recent episodes have been disappointing because they've taken interesting ideas but failed to execute them well. This one avoids that disappointment by not having a good story idea in the first place. It's basically bright lights attack the Enterprise. It was good that Scotty got to have the main role and the romantic subplot instead of Kirk, but that didn't save the episode. I found myself getting very annoyed when the crew kept referring to Lieutenant Romaine as the girl, which seemed a very inappropriate way to talk about a fellow officer. Her character wasn't well written at all. I assume we won't see her ever again. No, we won't. Not a lot happens, and what does happen happens slowly. The scene in the conference room when they were comparing brain patterns takes ages to reach a conclusion that the audience already knew. I didn't really understand how the pressure chamber solved the problem, and it did seem that we're a bit quick to go for the kill the aliens option. Yeah, that's true enough.
Yeah.
At least they fired the phasers for the first time in ages. The only other positive I found was I quite liked the effect of the dying technician trying to talk. It was quite unnerving and reminded me of something you might see in a David Lynch film. Overall, it failed to keep me interested, but at least I learnt how the Memory Alpha website got its name.
Yeah.
It's educational, if nothing else. Let's find out what Sampo and Yona thought.
Hello.
Hello.
So we just watched The Lights of Zetar.
What happened in it?
Lots of people looking intently at screens and blinking lights, and a lot of music trying to convince us that something exciting was happening.
Well, Kirk said it well himself on the end when he said he couldn't bear the excitement when finally the 3 crew members agreed.
Yeah, which was sort of ironic since this was one of the most boring episodes like in forever.
I guess, but hey, do you know what is exciting?
Well,
brain waves.
Yes, brain waves. They're like fingerprints, I hear.
And in Star Trek world, there's only one type of brainwave. But we, however, have multiple brainwaves. Isn't that exciting?
Yes, I mean, you spent this latter half of the episode Googling brainwaves, and you found that a lot more interesting than the episode itself.
I found out binauralic beats.
Great.
You can listen them, and then they make you more relaxed, and this is actually science.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Meanwhile, in the episode, they were having a conference. Are you sure these are the same brainwaves? Yes, I am. Please double check. I will. They seem to match. Computer, check.
What was the machine with the lights?
It was a computer, didn't you? Don't you know what a computer looks like?
Sorry, I was Googling, so...
Yes. So, then let's do some evasive maneuvers. Let's go to the left, then let's go to the right. Let's do the time warp again, I guess. So yeah, the whole episode was just going through thinking about more exciting things, like brainwaves. Well, I mean, at least we got the name for, in our world, the webpage Memory Alpha. That's like the Star Trek Wikipedia. Exciting. Again, real life, more exciting than the episode.
Brain waves.
Yeah.
Did we learn what was the light thing?
Yes, they were the 100 last people from Zetar, and the planet died and they just refused to die. And then they became blinking lights in space, as you do.
I want to do that.
Please don't wish for a dying planet. Okay, that was dark. What did you think about Mr. Scott's and the Romaine's relationship?
Well, it seemed that Scotty was all in. And Mira wasn't completely there.
Well, she spent most of the episode with lights in her brain waves, so yeah. But luckily they pressured the lights out of her.
Luckily that didn't stop Mr. Scotty from being in love.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, again, there was a situation that the woman was trying to tell that, okay, I saw some things, and
it's the space now, hey.
It's the space sickness now. Where Scotty was trying to say that it's impossible to see in the future, even though they know that time travel exists, and they traveled in time themselves a few times.
Yeah, but women cannot.
Yeah, clearly.
Because they menstruate all the time.
At least later, Scott said, okay, she should have listened to her in the exciting conference, but almost the next sentence where she was saying that, then I saw you die, then she was like, now don't talk about any of that nonsense. I mean, who's gonna die? I was pretty surprised that she didn't actually die, because I'm almost 100% sure that she is never mentioned again after this episode. Okay, so to sum it up, extremely boring episode. All the exciting stuff was something that happened elsewhere.
If it wouldn't be this dull episode, I would never have learned anything about brainwaves.
Yes. I've got one good thing about this. I mean, they were under attack by a strange entity. The first thing Kirk wanted to do was try and protect themselves. Then he tried to communicate, and only then he didn't start by shooting.
They kinda did.
I mean, they didn't start with it. That's like that was the last resort when they couldn't communicate or defend themselves. That's when they started shooting. I think that was good.
Yeah, that was fine.
Well, let's hope there's more excitement next week.
Brainwaves.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay. It's had an unfortunate effect on Yona, obviously. You have to check, Sampa, whether she's got lights in her eyes.
Yeah. Well, I loved her question. What was the machine with all the lights? That was the computer. Because, of course, computers do not look anything like that. But they were all a bit push-buttony, weren't they, in the 60s? With
well, I
tapes on
prefer
and
the original series idea of a computer to the original Doctor Who idea, which was a massive, great big thing with, cassette tapes on it.
Yeah.
Which I know were what original computers looked like, but they weren't the computers of the future. At least these look vaguely like they're different to what we think of as computers now. So in some ways, that's an improvement. In some ways.
Yeah.
I much prefer the Next Generation little plastic
cassette
things. That's a lot better, I think. Data chips or something, can't they?
Yeah, and I like in Deep Space Nine, they got rods, don't they?
Yes, the Kardashian version's a rod, yes.
Yeah.
No Jane or Freddie, though. Yes.
And it does take absolutely bloody ages with those brainwaves, though, isn't it? Let's see the two brainwaves. Are they the same? Yes. Are they the same? Yes, they're the same. Computer, are they the same? Look, I'm going to put them one over the top of the other very slowly. Yes, I'm going to confirm. They're just like padding much.
Somewhat, yes.
And yeah, actually, I was a bit surprised she didn't die. I actually said, I bet she dies, because we don't ever see her again.
Yes, you did think she was going to, but no. I mean, the fact that you don't even see her leave for Memory Alpha and the last scene doesn't feature is appallingly telling, isn't it?
Yeah.
But hey-hoo. Let's find out what Llama God thought.
Llama God's log, Fixie correct. Yeah, Fixie care. Pressure! Pushing down on me, pushing down on you. Now, every great episode of Star Trek is about something, and what this episode is about is the urgent need for the Enterprise to have a really good, decent HR team, because, I mean, come on, fucking hell. When the episode opens with Lieutenant Mira Romaine, who I don't think is addressed by her rank at any further point in the episode, and the fact that she is the focus of Scotty's affections, I was worried about her because, clearly she could end up being brutally murdered by him, but thankfully that doesn't happen at least. But the amount of crap she has to put up with the episode, she is patronised, talked down to, and referred to as the girl so often that both Joe and I were shouting at the TV because, I mean, yeah, I know it's the 60s, but come on, it's fucking unbearable. But that aside, if you can even put it aside, the question is, what is the episode actually about? Because basically the story boils down to Enterprise encounters some lights, crewman gets possessed by the lights, crewman gets unpossessed by the lights, they go away. That's it. There is nothing to this episode. There is absolutely nothing to this whole damned episode, aside from the misogyny and the ickiness. So this episode is a really, really much of a nothing, and it is incredibly dull, and I was checking my watch so many times through the episode. In fact, it got to the point that I was so bored and distracted that I actually nearly missed the fact when the Zetarians, or whatever they are, the lights spoke through Lieutenant Romaine. I'm actually going to show us more respect there than the episode writer did, to explain what was actually going on in the episode, but not that it had a bearing on anything, because, there's no resolution or anything. They just, they get rid of them and they win, and that's the end. So what's the fucking the point of that? There's no interest, no intelligence, no charm, no nothing. It's just, the whole episode is empty, and I can see why people have been bailing during season 3 if this is the level of quality we've come to expect. It's not even like Spock's brain where it's funny or anything, or there's something to latch onto. It's just dull. I guess if there's one point of interest, it's the fact that Zetar is yet another dead society, with the people trying to cling on to their own existence for as long as possible. Obviously, this was the 1960s, so I guess the threat of mutually assured nuclear annihilation was very much on everybody's mind, so I guess this is what was playing into the whole idea of dead society. But yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. Pretty much it. It's interesting as a footnote, but that's about it. And I guess the other question is, at the end of the episode, Lieutenant Romaine is actually going to go down to Memory Alpha and carry out her work anyway. So the question is, what's she going to do down there when the computer's burned out and everyone's dead? So, I don't know. The writers clearly didn't think much about this episode, so I'm not thinking too much about it more. And yeah, that's it. So as ever, I'll be interested to find out if everyone else was bored to tears or not. Although, of course, that said, given the alternative of that or living in interesting times we are at the moment, I think I know what I'd rather choose, so I guess I shouldn't complain too much. And until next time, glory to you and your cast.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Spock does seem to say at one point that Memory Alpha's been destroyed, so
yes,
she's got an awful lot of work to do there, hasn't she?
Yeah.
I hope they had backups.
Yeah, I don't know. And also, it's like, how stupid is it that it doesn't have shields? But then how even more stupid is it to go, oh, right, well, now we're going to send all the stuff over and leave you by without then installing some fucking shields?
Yeah. The inspiration for the story literally was just, let's have a love affair that isn't Kirk for once. So, yeah there was never going to be much to this, I'm afraid. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And it's here from the Pie Man.
Hello, Args. Harry here, calling from increasing series of Murray sends feedback from a weird place, this time on my walk through Glasgow, because due to an in-scheduled night shift, I am completely discombobulated as to what day it is. So I'm here to, hopefully clearly, with all this traffic noise around, deliver feedback for the lights of Zetar. Now, one of the things you said was with these in the same video, that might be why I mixed this up with the other one. I can't remember, the Mark of Gideon, that's the one. And I thought it could be that. It could also just be that they're both kind of sort of forgettable episodes with a title in the format of the something of something. This one, we do have this thing of Scotty all of a sudden discovers women's, apparently, but Scotty's, again, his choice of relationships quite often goes a bit wrong for him. What with him having a partner earlier who, gets murdered because he's infested with Jack the Ripper, and then this time she gets inhabited by a bundle of stars. Still, mention of Memory Alpha is quite neat. The concept's not bad. The idea that there's this weird cloud of energy beings who are kind of the last of a race who died out. Although it takes a long time to get there, and kind of in the meantime, it's the Enterprise flying around kind of avoiding a cloud for a lot of the time. I've got to admit that for a lot of it, the episode just kind of meandered. You had them watching things on screens, and I can't help but feel this was kind of a lot of cheap filler. There's no, as I say, probably the biggest contribution this episode has is the concept of Memory Alpha. But really beyond that, it's the thing of just, and there's a mystery. I do like the idea that yes, there was a mystery in the episode, and they're trying to work out what's going on, why she's collapsed, what killed all the people on Memory Alpha. But it just kind of, like I say, it doesn't really go anywhere. It just meanders. It's like it had maybe 20 minutes worth of plot, probably, and TOS doesn't do it as much. What this probably could have used as a B plot. And not just like Scotty's relationship. Scotty apparently like her because she's the sanest woman he's met. I have a colleague who used to say all the women he dates is crazy, and I think we've subtly tried to tell him that there's kind of a common denominator in these relationships, but I don't know if that's what Scotty has as well. And indeed, what happens about their relationship, it seems to be that basically their Enterprise is going to hang around at the end to start rebuilding Memory Alpha, which apparently was destroyed without a lot of backups because they're talking about knowledge being lost. So they moved everything there and didn't keep like an off-site backup. Or is there like some Starfleet officer with a portable hard drive somewhere on like the USS, Lincoln or something? Overall, again, apologies for the probably background noise, the feedback, and the general low quality as it's me walking through a big city. But overall, I can see why I don't remember this episode at all, because it's really just really forgettable. So all the way to say is do keep up the good work. I'll look forward to the podcast and hope to be back in the next one. But until then, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Well done for keeping your identity while all the other noises were trying to drown you out.
It was like he was suffering death by sound effects tape, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like an entire sound effects library was being thrown at him, and he was bravely fighting his way through.
Maybe his wife was there, because Love clearly saw him through, and he was able to hang on to his identity despite all the other voices and noises in his head.
Yes. I mean, yes, it has got the concept of Memory Alpha, but it's incredibly dumb in this episode. I mean, thankfully, the Memory Alpha we know is rather more reliable than that, although it's rather more filled with adverts, unfortunately. But there we go.
Yeah.
But that was just amazing, that. It just reminded me of some Monty Python sketches, that somebody's battling through a load of sound effects being played at them.
Yeah.
And the looks you must have been getting on the streets of Glasgow, mate. Blimey.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Llama described this episode as boring, as did Boss, and you described it as forgettable. I mean, it's not.
No,
it's not one
brilliant.
that's going to stick in the memory, is it?
Ironically, no.
I mean, that feedback will stick in the memory.
Yes, definitely. Right, you've got to find somewhere even more incredible to be next time, Purry. That's your challenge. Recording feedback from different places across Scotland. I can't wait.
Well, the next one, though, will be on a train, won't it? It'll be about to say something and it'll go, ah!
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, given his job, that's quite likely. Yeah. I'm looking forward to him in the middle of Loch Ness, being dive bombed by the Loch Ness Monster or something.
Or just as he slowly goes underwater.
Excellent work, thank you. Most entertaining. Right, let's see where we travel to in the future. Well, the next original series episode we're watching, we'll be recording on the 13th of March. Now, this is the episode I always thought was actually called The Cloud Miners, which makes no sense at all. How do you mine a cloud? Well, I suppose Cloud City, possibly I was thinking Empire Strikes Back, because technically that was a mining operation, wasn't it, in the clouds? So maybe that's where I'd come from. But there is no Lando Calrissian in this, I'm pretty sure. But instead it's the Cloud Minders, which it just brings Arthur Daly to mind for some reason. So, yes.
Whereas I think of more like child minders. So is it sort of...
They're looking after the clouds.
Yes.
You're making sure they don't get hurt. Oh, that's very sweet.
Or something. Or is it like, a dog sitter or something? I don't know. Are they herding them?
We'll find out. Next week on the 6th of March, we'll be travelling to Starbase Screamy Face, a.k.a. Starbase 80. Ooh. Until then, take care. Cheery bye.
Bye, Sport.
And don't get run over in the streets of Glasgow.
No.
Or anywhere else.
Oh, yeah.
Please. The Star Trek theme was written by Alexander Courage, and here was arranged and performed by Drew Barker.
The artwork was created by Andy Pelastides.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
We have a Facebook group which you're welcome to join.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com. Find us on Blue Sky at broadcastammo.bsky.social.
And I'm at revorg.bsky.social.
Shut it down!